All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict live. All right, guys. Good to see you as always. Once again, Friday came so fast.
I know. It's remarkable.
It was just like last week, and here it is. Yeah, that's how life goes by before our own eyes. It goes by so fast. So anyway, welcome, guys. We got a lot to cover today. Okay, but before we jump into the headlines and all that, we want to let you know that now we do have our local page. So make sure you go check it out at www.geopolitics.locals.com. So we already have people on the website there. So check it out. And also want to remind our members that we're going to be doing right after this, about 1,300 hours, we're going to be doing the presentation for our members only. That's about the new military global order. That would be an interesting conversation.
Well, as you and I have been preparing it, it is really interesting.
Exactly.
And information you can't get anyplace else.
No, those are, well, actually it's going to get even better now with the locals. And you all know why, because locals, we can talk freely, censorship free. So, and we have a lot of topics to talk about on the locals. So, of course, you know why. It's not that we don't want to share it with you. It's just you guys know how the platform here is with the censorship. Also, make sure if you have not checked out our membership, check out geopoliticsinconflict.com. That's where we offer our membership there for live presentations, live Q&A, and anything else we can offer for our members. So, of course, we thank everybody for your continued support. It means a lot to us. So,
and as always, the joke is we're inching closer and closer. Actually, we're doing better than inching to our subscriber.
Well, except that some are wondering, which rightly so. Some of our viewers are wondering, how come our numbers are not going up? Is there something else? So,
not fast enough.
We don't know. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on.
What do you think? Headlines?
Let's go with that. Our viewers always like those kind of conversations.
Malaysia continues supporting the Belt and Road Initiative.
I know that it came shocking to the West. Ismail Sabri, the prime minister, I think. Yeah, he confirmed. As a matter of fact, I had to dig into this. Guess what? I didn't find it in the West. I found it in outside the U.S. And what basically Ismail Sabri is recognizing is that they're gonna be involved in about $9.1 billion, about 20 projects. So he's already extending that to Chinese investors as part of the BRI. And you can just see why. It's just common sense. And that's what we said last time, Ross. Yeah, ASEAN countries going to be thinking in terms of prosperity. Do we want to align with prosperity, or do we want to entangle in conflicts and so forth?
Choice is obvious.
Obviously.
This is really fascinating.
Yeah.
France is providing spy gears to Egypt.
Indeed. It just came up to revelations last night, at least I came across it. You wonder why, because human rights abuses in Egypt, oh my God. And yet the US is turning a blind eye on, because that's how we do it with certain allies per se. But France turns out to be the one behind providing those spy gears to the authorities in Egypt to clamp down on opposition leaders, academia, and whomever criticizes the government ends up being jailed. So shame on France. I will say it, even though I have family lives in France.
Putin-Xi virtual talks.
Yeah, we did a quick live on this. The reason we don't want to talk too much about that one, what we want to mention is, what I was very fascinated with, Ross, is how Putin started the conversation. And guess how he started with? The word dear friend.
Yes.
I
think that's a signal.
Yeah.
We've been talking about that for a long time, about these guys really are friends. They actually really like each other and spend a fair amount of time together for world leaders.
Exactly. Well, what's interesting, not only on both sides, geopolitical side, but also on the financial aspect, Russia and China are going to be moving forward in developing a financial infrastructure. In other words, bypassing the SWIFT system altogether. So you can see what you guys going to be noticing is that some ASEAN countries is going to be moving into that direction. Myanmar already mentioned by
Yeah.
2022 they're going to be using the yuan, and now Indonesia, Malaysia will be considering all this moving forward. Thailand, I'm sure you're going to see it's a trend. We're going to be just watch for it for the next few years. You're going to see.
The United Arab Emirates threatens to dump the purchase of the United States-made F-35 fighter jets. The U.S. is panicking.
Well, it is panicking because it's $23 billion, about 50 fighter jets, F-35s. And all this has to do with because the U.S. wanted the United Arab Emirates to get rid of the Huawei 5G. And the United Arab Emirates said, no, we're not going to do it. Then start to get into how they said, well, heck with it, we're not buying those. The U.S. now reversed course. Yes, the U.S. reversed course. Now they're going to probably negotiate again the conversation about the F-35s. It's $23 billion. So,
Gone.
Yeah.
Perhaps gone.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, they're going to see. So it was very interesting to mention that one.
Well, when do you hear this one, David?
Yeah.
Washington imposes sanctions on Chinese companies involved in the Uyghur crackdown.
Yeah.
What a joke.
I heard that one. There is now a conversation on my Twitter account. There are a lot of people we're talking about in Canada because there was a court, something has to do with Uyghurs, so forth, whatever. Well, they found out that who's funding that court? It's the NED, the National Endowment for Democracy.
Oh, that
so
one.
it's kind of like, why is Canada getting into this? Once again, the reason why we want to mention this is just the idea of sanctions without proof. Remember what Robbie Barwick said about Xinjiang? That there's
nothing
there. So
it's all fabricated.
Yeah. Call a spade a spade. Call it when it's not, when it's truth. That's the truth. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. So
here's one that's a delightful surprise. Iran prepares to send a satellite to space.
Indeed. A lot of people do not know. When they think of Iran, they think just like some backward country. You know how advanced Iran is in technology?
Yeah.
They do have an edge on, they do have some on the quieter side. It's not like they don't brag on stuff. But what I found fascinating about this, you know why? Because the preparation of the launching of satellites coincided with the ongoing talks in Vienna. That's how they were doing it. So that's usually a message to the West, or the US for that matter. There is also a piece of information that came out that most of the media in the West saying that Iran didn't agree to the terms or whatever, well, in reality, Iran did not want to sit with the US.
Yeah.
So the media, the West media is reversing that. So, which is not true, because it was Iran's decision not to sit down with the US. Their arguments is, how can we trust the US?
Gosh, I wonder why they'd have that question.
Indeed. So,
a deal that was working, and the U.S. pulled out.
It was working. So, and now it just, So,
what do you think? Should we move to the topic of the day?
All right. What is the topic?
Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State of the United States, is going to Southeast Asia. I wonder what his mission is.
Yeah, he's already one there.
He's already there.
He's already there, and he's back.
Okay.
The trip was cut short. Yeah, which nobody knew till last night. I came across it. What the media here in the West were saying is just they're saying that a member of his staff was tested positive for C-19. So that's what they're saying. Well, let's dig into the truth as to why it was the trip canceled. Well, first of all, whomever was advising the secretary to go, it was wrong from the get-go. What are you going to Southeast Asia for? After how the U.S. is behaving, what makes you think that they're going to welcome you there? Ally or not?
Exactly.
After what they saw happened in Afghanistan, what makes you think, you, the Secretary of State, that they're going to welcome you with open arms? So the first stop was in Indonesia, okay, where the Secretary Blinken talked in Jakarta. Well, once again, because the Western media didn't report the reason why he went there in the first place, because Russia was cutting a deal with the Indonesian government about information security and military cooperation.
Wow.
So, That's like common sense. So the itinerary, which I had a chance to look at, had included Malaysia and Thailand. Okay, Cambodia and Laos were part of it. I wasn't sure whether he was going there or not, but Malaysia and Thailand. Well, guess what? Thailand, the junta in Thailand said, heck no. With that, you know, their argument also because the demonstrations that took place in Thailand were supported by the US. That's what the junta in Thailand said. So they don't want to have anything to deal with, those cultures, those countries in that part of the world. Honesty means a lot to them. I had a chance to interact with some individuals from different parts, Malaysia, Indonesia, China, Vietnam, Cambodia. As a matter of fact, one of my good friends, it's of Vietnam background.
Yeah.
It's a Vietnamese, it's an American. Been there. Wonder, the guy will take shirt out of his bag and give it to you.
Right.
That's how much his name, Charlie. Charlie and I, we knew each other since the 90s. Why? It's because that trust. Once they trust you, that's it. You break that trust, it's over.
And it's really no secret to the people and the government of Thailand that the U.S. doesn't support the kingdom. It doesn't, and it's actively subversive to the government.
Yeah.
And so they expect a warm welcome.
Yeah. And that's their culture. Let them. They want to have a monarchy. Let them have a monarchy. Who are we to decide? So if it is the case, why aren't we doing this the same about Saudi Arabia?
Yes, put a joke.
Surely.
Well, I think we should stop supporting the Queen of England. It's a monarchy.
I know.
Let's overthrow that government.
Yeah. Speaking of the Queen, I am glad you brought this up. Guess what just happened this morning?
What?
Boris Johnson lost in a massive defeat to his party. Never ever the Conservative Party had a defeat like that.
Wow.
Which tells you what, right there, Brits. I tip my hat to the Brits. If you are Brits watching this, you really admire them for wanting to kick out Johnson, because where he's leading UK in the direction they're going. It's no different than what Australia is going.
Right.
We had some of our viewers saying, "Oh my gosh, we never heard of Rabi. We never heard of this small party." Well, it's because it's a small party. Dominate, the big ones dominate the media, dominate everything. Of course, you're not going to hear. And when they heard what Rabi had to say about the truth, about their own country, they were shocked.
Isn't that amazing?
But happy to know there are some decent Australians still there. Well, it's no different than it is in England now that the Brits, sent a message, because this is a message to the Conservative Party, because Britain is going some. We all know. So just to piggyback on your Queen. So yeah, just it came to mind as to what happened with that one. So yeah, the idea of those countries, how the in Asia, the trust means a lot to them. Friendship, honest friendship means a lot to them. So when Blinken will go thinking that they just walk his way in with open, I mean, come on, let's be realistic here. Second thing is, most countries, and we said this before, Ross, most of ASEAN countries is going to be thinking twice about siding with the U.S.
They must. When you take a look at how much international trade goes on between those countries and China.
I'm going to give you a number, Ross. So just to let you know, in 2020, and I have it right here in front of me, 2020, in the case of Malaysia was considered the largest trading partner since 2009 with China, and the accounts for 18.6%. So when you have, and this is why Ismail Sabri, the prime minister or the PM, decided, okay, we're going to allow 20 projects as part of the BRI for $9.1 billion, because he's seeing the long term.
Right.
So, like we said last time, you have two paths. Either you go with economic prosperity or you go the military and conflicts route. And those countries now making a decision. They decided to go with economic prosperity.
What a concept.
Yeah.
And let's get along and make money and have a prosperous society, or let's make conflict and war the primary goal of our country.
Exactly.
Cut me up.
Yeah,
right.
and Malaysians and Indonesians and all other ASEAN country people, they deserve better. I had a chance to encounter some individuals from Malaysia.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people. They are very pragmatic when it comes down to addressing issues with them. Yes, every country has its own problems. We're no different.
Right.
Ours are so deep that we're going to get into that one day. But the idea of now you're seeing with this trip, and again, this is what I always say, guys, you have to think in terms of the big picture. Beside the lies that the media, mainstream media is saying, whatever, put all that aside. And when you evaluate global affairs, evaluate them from the bigger picture. Don't just focus on, Malaysia and US. No. You have to see the big picture. And the big picture in this case is that ASEAN countries realizing that, where tensions are moving forward with the virtual call between Putin and Xi on the 15th, 2 days ago, in which China, in a subtle way, reaffirmed its support of Russia. What does it mean?
Right.
You can just see where, and this is usually what I always mention, you have to take the content within a bigger concept per se, or content of the big picture.
If I've read this correctly, that meeting was over the top in terms of its meaning to the world.
It was indeed, Ross. It was a strong message to the West and to the US. And I think China meant when they said that we will support you. It was in a subtle way. This is because you have to understand the language of diplomacy.
Yeah.
It's much more settled than that's like what happened with this trip of Blinken to Southeast Asia, thinking you can just walk your way here. No, it's not gonna work. And now countries there are thinking in terms of even when it comes down to China and Russia agreement to build the infrastructure, the financial one that is, to get rid of the SWIFT. Countries in the region are now start to think, because they're gonna have these things. By the way, it doesn't happen overnight, guys. It's gonna take a few years to set that infrastructure, the financial one.
I think an important consideration here is Kamala Harris. Her trip was a fiasco.
We did a video on it.
We did a pretty careful analysis of this. Was a terrible thing. And then they naively send Tony Blinken to follow in her footsteps.
Yeah.
Who's thinking of this stuff?
Yeah. And it tells you right there, that's usually, to me personally, and this is as always my personal opinion, it's a fragmented foreign policy.
Yeah.
That means we have a foreign policy that is incohesive, with no vision. And U.S. foreign policy establishment is only reacting to events rather than acting while the event's happening.
And we see the other major players, that is world powers, they've got plans.
Yeah. And that is
next year, 5 years, 30 years. We've got this all mapped out as to where we want to end up.
Exactly.
And the steps along the way. Sorry.
No worries. And this is why we title it the Hypocrisy Tour, because it's a hypocrisy. What would you call it? What else would you call it? Because that's what it is. Here is the thing. You are sanctioning Russia. The U.S. is sanctioning Russia and sending a high-ranking official from Washington to Moscow for talks. Who's in a right mind will say, sure, let's sit down with the American delegation and talk. You sanctioning them and want to talk to them. That just doesn't make sense. Common sense.
Right.
And that's what it seems we are really in desperate needs in Washington, is some pragmatism and some common sense. Our foreign policy establishment gets zero pragmatism. And I'll say it straightforward.
Maybe that's why we see the defense budget $25 billion higher than Biden even requested. Congress seems to be out of their mind.
Yeah, it tells you right there. You look at, this is why I believe Malaysia with the Ismail Sabri's PM confirming or reaffirming the Malaysia's involvement in BRI stems from that point, is understanding what's in it for the Malaysian people. He is a servant of the people. We all know about corruption. We all know we have them everywhere. As a matter of fact, Boris Johnson, the reason he lost part of it also, because he's involved in a corruption scandal.
No.
Yeah. It's kind of one up pointing fingers here just to be spiteful. No. We don't do that because we're beyond that. I'm one of those that negative energy, it's no good.
Right.
Never ever harbor anger. It's bad. Very, very bad. But you're gonna have to state the facts. And that is why, in my opinion, whomever advised Tony Blinken to go to Southeast Asia had no clue about, did he or she put him or herself in those people's shoes?
And we have the answer. No.
They did not. And this is why those countries are moving forward with what's good for them, what's good for their population, and that's why they had to come up with a strategy. Oh, a member of his entourage was tested positive. Nonsense. We all know that movie. It's not, and this is where that idea of why I do believe personally, once again, my personal opinion, ASEAN countries, they know what's need to be done on their end to move in there. Yes, they might sit down with the US, they might say, okay, whatever. But when it comes down to truly what they want, is they want economic prosperity for the country.
Actually, they've been pretty clear about it.
Indeed. So, and this Taiwan issue and all that. And speaking of Taiwan, that made me think of something. Because last time, I remember, we talked about the issue of the, what's her name, Tsai, PhD, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I had to dig into that.
And?
It's still not conclusive. So, we have a link. We're going to share it with you, just to guys let you know. And if you look exactly on that screen there, and I'm going to open it on my screen here, and where it says supervisor not available, that's usually a bad sign.
Yeah.
I went through the PhD. My supervisor was John Nirenberg. He's on a record. Second thing, what I found was that this dissertation is restricted.
That's a bad sign.
That's another bad sign. But still, we don't jump to conclusions yet, because this is what it says. However, I digged enough elsewhere, and I found the letter that Tsai sent in October 3rd, 2019, sent it to London School of Economics about her dissertation. And it was the dissertation there. I took a look at it, 406 pages. It was in 1983. However, it was not uploaded into the library because PhDs, as you may know, guys, there are some legal aspects to it before you are awarded that degree.
Yeah.
That's why when you are not officially awarded the degree, you can't call yourself a doctor. That's fraud. The questions that came up regarding this one is, why the supervisor is not disclosed, the name. Did London School of Economics committed fraud? And I can't jump to that. That's why we are not reaching a conclusion yet. I have one of my contacts who knows London School of Economics very well. He's a former professor of mine. I'm going to reach out to him and get you an answer for that. So just while we're talking about it, just to remind it that. So back to our topic. So the idea of those ASEAN countries thinking now, because the US is taking a very, very bad direction, shall we say?
Yeah.
As far as ratcheting up these tensions with China, they are close proximity because they know, those countries, ASEAN countries, they know if they go with the US, they're going to become a target. So if you are ahead of a country there, what would you want?
Oh, I want to go the route that Australia went.
Yeah, isn't that funny about Australia? So where are they going? So it's just the idea of, just to let you guys know that the trip, in my opinion, was a failure. Another one, it shouldn't be there in the first place. It's because, and again, I'm an American. Don't get me wrong here. I love my country, but we call spade a spade. What are we going over there for when we couldn't even fix our own credibility here at home?
Right.
As we always say, you learn when you do international studies and so forth, that foreign policy begins at home. At home. How can we go to other countries and say, well, you need to do this and this and that? And come on, when we couldn't fix our own stuff.
Especially when you know so little about the culture, so little about the history. And it's gross disrespect.
Indeed, that's what it was. And somebody had to tell Tony Blinken about that one, but they didn't have the courage to say. And this is where you know when you have yes, sir, yes, ma'am individuals, it's not good. If somebody doesn't have the gut to say to the secretary, sir, you can't go there because optics, it's not good. We don't have credibility. And let's fix some other problems before we meet with those leaders. So, but the bottom line, before we jump into the questions here, guys, the bottom line is that the trip was a failure. That's why it had to be cut short. It's because Thailand didn't. It's almost like that's their way of saying, we don't want you here. Please just go back home. Other countries, in the case of Laos and Cambodia, I had a chance to be in Cambodia. I enjoyed Phnom Penh. Incredible people. I always like the people. I'm not big on titles and all that stuff. Doesn't mean a thing. But wonderful people, down to earth and all that stuff. But in the case of Laos, why the U.S. is concerned? What is concerned? Because Laos received the speed train from China.
Right.
So they're moving into a direction where they're going to start to think in terms of economic ventures. Why do they need to side with the U.S.?
The joke for me is, has anyone noticed how close Laos is to China? I mean, they're close neighbors. They've got a long history, and they're trade partners.
You're absolutely correct. And the next thing that I see happening, Ross, it has to do with the financial market.
Yeah.
You're going to see them moving with China and Russia when it comes down to once that financial system is established. So, all right. Shall we go to questions?
Let's see if we've got some questions here.
You mean, let's say if we have some intelligent questions?
Well, that's that's invariably true.
I truly enjoy questions from our viewers. I mean, they are incredible.
I asked them to put questions.
Yeah, please just make sure you put question there, so it makes it easier. And by the way, they do enjoy Wednesday session when we do Q&A.
Okay.
A lot of you. I read the comments, guys. I do read the comments. We truly appreciate it, and I know you mean well, and you mean it when you write this. We beyond being Mr. Nice and all. I'm not that type. I'm sure you figured that out by now about me.
He's polite, but he's
right.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Plato.
Thank you, Plato. We appreciate it.
Super sticker. Thank you.
Plato got a super sticker last time.
Oh.
We want to say thank you to you all, guys. It means a lot. We want you to know that. It's just the way, to me, it's the gesture. It's the, some are coming from some different parts of the world. Here's Plato.
My humble contribution. You guys are doing a great job. The world needs to listen to truth rather than fake news. I will ask more friends to listen to truth to power.
Well, thank you very much, Plato. We do need the word to be spread out about our channel. It's because we want it to grow. We're wondering how come we only in 40,000 of it when the channel is popular, is respected, and we're supposed to have more. And hopefully, with your word, that will help us out.
Mike Jin, thank you, super sticker.
Thank you, Mike. We truly appreciate it. That was so kind of Mike. They're wonderful people.
Stefan, thank you.
Oh my God.
I heard from a couple Mandarin outlets saying that Putin and Xi had agreed to extend Russian version of national missile defense to China by exchanging codes and technology.
You're absolutely correct. There was some conversation regarding this. And as a matter of fact, it was one comment from one of our viewers saying, well, how come they will not share the technology? No, they will to a degree. Remember, there are certain state secrets. We all have them. We're all in all countries. When it comes down, especially in the case of Russia, in case of China, China has some technology that is not known much outside. Russia has some technology that is not known much outside. The one at least I am very familiar with, not in detail. It has to do with the submarine technology. Yes. Could Russia and China come to that agreement in sharing that? And if they do, and when they do, that will become a very powerful team. I mean, there is no way any country will stand a chance. So yeah, they do, and they're gonna move into, especially with I do see it moving forward when it comes down to the missiles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a possibility, and it will happen.
Oh, look who it is.
Good to see you, Ariel.
What would the U.S. establishment might gain by instigating World War III? Keeping the Bretton Woods structure, keeping the illusion of unilateralism. Be my guest. Nothing. That's really the answer. Catastrophe.
Yeah, the idea of Bretton Woods, there are some conversations that some have argued that U.S. could go to a war to protect the dollar. There is a possibility of that. I will not deny it. There is the possibility of that. The only problem with that approach is, does the U.S. truly sort of run all the scenarios of the possibility of the outcome of that?
Well, we're going to talk about this afternoon.
That's for
At
the
length.
new military order, global order. That's why, we can only talk so much here. But just to get back to your question, Ariel, yeah, there's the possibility of that. But, the U.S. will have to really, really think twice before the engaging of that. As to the unipolarity, we moved on. The U.S. needs to grasp now. And again, this trip of Blinken to Asia is an indication of that. Back then, they were roll out the red carpet.
No longer.
No.
Multipolar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Multipolar is already here.
That's it. And it's fait accompli,
It's fait accompli.
whether we want to accept it or not. Next question. There it is.
Hey,
Beryakov. Good to see you, Beryakov.
In 2021, China trading partners sorted by US dollar. Number one is ASEAN. Second is Europe, and the US's third position. Looking at the fact, isn't this clear that Blinken's visit will end up in vain? Well, it has ended up in vain.
It has
You
ended
predicted
up
that
in
one.
vain. You
Yeah.
are absolutely correct. Yeah, because the facts speak for themselves. We don't need to beat the dead horse in the sense of, as we say in Europe, because and this is where why I was surprised yesterday, why the mainstream media here last night when they released the info about, some member of the Tony Blinken's delegation got tested positive. Why don't you come forward and say the truth that it's because we're not welcomed here?
Yeah.
Just say straightforward so we can come back here and think of a better strategy, or think about that's like when you have a problem. When you have a problem, what do you do? Do you sit down and start, just blaming everybody else? Or do you look inward and say, okay, what went wrong?
Oh, that's being reasonable.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that, Ross. But on a serious note, this is where that idea, and this is why a comment like this makes more sense.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. Till the U.S. takes a step back and look inward in understanding that its credibility has been damaged far beyond repair. You're going to have now, in my opinion, you're going to have to put a brand new establishment in a foreign policy, brand new establishment in national security, brand new establishment in defense. People who are thinking logically, pragmatically, and in terms of peace for the rest of the world. Enough of this nonsense. Enough of these wars and conflicts. Till when? And what I don't get, Ross, and pardon me if I'm talking here now, because I get into this mood of, trying to see the logic. We are just passing through in this life. How long do we live? If we reach 80, that's great.
Right.
Or 90 or whatever. Beside the point. We're just passing through. How about if we live in peace? We coexist with others peacefully. Why this animosity? Why this, creating tensions that they are not there? Why not live and let live?
Well, as a psychologist, I have answers, but that's for another show.
Well, I would like to hear some.
Right now?
Yes. Won't you guys want to hear some? Yeah, just saying yes, Russ.
Okay. Well, one of the things we've talked about before is what happens when people have power. Well, their biochemistry and hormonal shifts, their hormones shift, and they feel good, inappropriately good sometimes. And we saw the example of the silverback apes. When they become the power player, they get a big silver stripe down their back because their testosterone levels have changed and their adrenaline glands are producing differently from the other apes or like us. And so we see people actually addicted to conflict.
Wow.
And we see them start to act like sociopaths that don't care about the consequences to other people. And we have a number of those in Washington.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they say, well, 20,000 people died of thirst. Those are acceptable losses. Oh, not if you're one of them, not if you're one of if you're one of the family members.
Yeah.
And so this is actually addicted to their own hormones. And they can't see reasonably or rationally after that. They just keep wanting to feel good and feel powerful and feel in control. Well, they're getting slapped in the face for it right now.
Yeah, because this is literally, it is a diplomatic slap with this tour of Blinken, and Secretary of State is being, that's usually in the diplomatic language. That's very bad. Very, 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 very bad. So next question.
Denisiu, the Ocampo, are you expecting another U.S. problem with Phil?
Philippines.
Oh, the Philippines. There is coming election in May 2022, and the strongest contender is the son of the former President Marcos. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Who was overthrown decades ago with the help of the U.S.
Yeah. I remember that when I was a kid, Ferdinand Marcos.
I do too.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see Philippines which direction is going to go, especially with Duterte's daughter might be considered running. Yeah, so it would be interesting. I don't have an answer personally right now, but I do have sources where I can get the right answer. People who knows about Philippines inside out. Yeah, it would be interesting to see. I don't know. It was a question about the status of the U.S. military in Philippines. There is an agreement between Philippines and the U.S. Usually has to be renewed or something like that. I don't know where this stands. I do know that the U.S. didn't deliver certain military hardware to Philippines, even though it was signed from way back.
Oh,
I don't know why. Maybe they resolved that issue, maybe not. But we're gonna keep an eye on that just to see. All right, next question. That's Ahmed Bilal.
Ahmed Bilal?
Yes.
Okay. Does the U.S. maintain a list of their allies, partners, friends? Lopes changing? Look at France on the issue of Olympic in China, position of Canada, Mexico, on automobile sector, to name a few.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Do we keep a list of friends? Well, yes, we do. But what we keep the list of is where our strategic interests are. So if a country that will serve the strategic interest, it will be on the list. If a country does not, it will be on a blacklist. That's usually how Washington does it. Yeah, you think in terms of this economic aspects of it, but it's mainly driven by the corporations here in the US and how much they can influence the global market. I take the example of Indonesia back in the 70s. With the area of Java in Indonesia, how rich it was in oil, minerals, and all that stuff. But it was the oil companies, US companies, that took control of that with the IMF, with the stuff. This is exactly what's going on right now in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, because the IMF is wanting to push the government to accept the debt for them for 2022. That is what exactly going on right now with that. So it's the idea of those countries thinking in terms the IMF, that is moving into that direction, whether they're going to agree or not. But Argentinians are demonstrating against it. So yeah, we do keep a list, but again, are they serving our strategic interest or not? That's usually where the
World Peace Super Sticker.
Oh,
thank you.
You.
Thank you.
It just give us super sticker yesterday. They
Really? Thanks again.
World Peace. Thank you very much, World Peace. We truly appreciate it.
Hi, guys. If you want to grow fast to 70 million subscribers, you must do anti-China stuff. But I prefer the Truth and Honesty channel. Cheers for harmony.
Just to comment quickly on that, we've been sort of commented about it to go that route. We couldn't because the truth we stand for. And as we always say, if we find out that China's doing something wrong, we're gonna call it. You know,
we're not afraid at all.
Oh, no. You know, if we are to lose all our subscribers because we're saying the truth about China or any other country, then be it. You know, I'm not sugarcoat things. Just the way it is. That's my personality. That's how I am. But if you don't have, if you whomever that is, have a hard time accepting the truth, there's a problem with you. You're gonna need to look inward. Has nothing to do with us. That's the. But we try. I know what you mean. It just, you know, we'd rather keep it the way it is as far as being honest with you, tell you the facts to the best of our ability, and let you, as Ross always said, let you reach your own conclusion.
And by the way, there are lots of other people claiming all sorts of bad things about China.
Yeah.
We don't need to focus on that.
You're right. Harry
Xie. When amateurs deal with professional diplomats, who will be on the winning side? You know who I'm talking about.
We do.
Harry, keep this humor going. This is really good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You got a point there, Harry. It makes perfect sense. Amateur, that's the way I look at it. And that is where in State Departments, that's why I said, man, I didn't say it. I say things for a reason. I have always a reason for why I say certain things. That the U.S. foreign policy establishment needs a top to bottom review. They need to really have a neo cadre and all the, you know, it's because they just, you know, they read a book or two about a country and call themselves experts. You know, go figure. So,
Are these people accountable?
no, it's because
They can't be.
the system now allowed. You know, we corrupted to
Yeah.
the core. So, Dakian.
Dakian Sun. What is the U.S. strategy to communist countries? Is Southeast Asia, like Vietnam, bribe them against China or regime change? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, you know, the U.S. is gonna try. You know, but I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think that train has already left the station. It's
Sure, seems
almost,
to.
yeah, it's almost like, you know, things coming up to the surface, what we've done for the last 4, 5, 6 decades, it won't work today. The shift has already occurred. It can, you know, things have changed. Things have changed on the global geopolitical landscape. And those tactics that worked back in the 70s, and it did. We all look at the history of Southeast Asia, I mean, Indonesia included, Vietnam, Philippines, or
Yeah.
Latin America for that matter. Those will not work anymore. Otherwise, if it were the case today, you won't see the demonstrations in Buenos Aires. You know, why would they demonstrate when there's so much money just given to them, which is nothing but sinking them in debt?
Right.
Argentinians, and this is just as an example, Argentinians saying, no, we don't want to be sinking debt. They already have $49 billion needs to be paid, and they want to pay it and move on. Indonesia or Malaysia is another example. Malaysia now with moving forward with this $9.1 billion China's BRI.
You know, it's as if you think the Argentine people don't remember the severe debt.
Oh, they do.
And you think they don't remember the inflation. You think they don't remember how the currency, how the gold flew out of the country, the wealth left the country and left them broke
Exactly, Russ.
with truly unstable economy.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
remember that.
You're absolutely correct. And they know. So. All right. Look who. Oh, Journey to the East.
Thank you, Journey to the East.
I like that screen name. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, Journey.
The question went away.
Sorry.
No, it was there.
USA is declining and you guys know it. My question is, do you guys think US will push for the World War III because more and more countries now think about dumping the US dollar? And we know they're thinking about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I personally have I don't know if you guys get a chance to check some of my previous writings on my blogs, or some, you'll see my articles on the internet there, or my books, whatever. I did address this particular issue. The decline of the U.S. didn't happen last year or the year before. This has been a decades in the making. And all that stems from one aspect, a fragmented foreign policy.
Yeah.
And the fragmentation I'm talking about is the double standard. We say one thing and do another. And that caught up with us over time. So as far as pushing for war, yeah, especially with the currency, it's because, as you know, the dollar is the dominant global currency that was set for a reason since 1949 under Bretton Woods. Are we going to have another Bretton Woods too? Not necessarily, because with China and Russia, conversation about establishing an infrastructure for financial aspects. Because you can't just go into the global market and say, hey, we're going to use the yuan or ruble or whatever that is. No. You have to have an infrastructure for that, for countries to subscribe to that. And this is where the fear in the United States about this hegemony of the dollar is coming, because the strength of the dollar, the idea of the strength of it, not of its value, but the strength of it is in sanctions.
Yeah.
Because when we sanction a country, well, what do we sanction the most? The financial aspect. Once you get rid of the dollar altogether, what would be the purpose? You can sanction all you want. They don't use your currency. And yeah, the US could trigger that, except we all know what the consequences will be. I hope not.
Yeah. William? United States, after destroying several Middle East countries by invasion and sanctions, U.S. wants to do the same to Southeast Asian countries by setting them against China. Will U.S. succeed? I think we've got a pretty clear answer here.
Yeah. The answer is no.
No, they will not succeed.
Won't, because they saw what took place in Afghanistan. They saw what took place in the Middle East. They're not going to want that in their backyard. And they're going to be thinking twice about. That doesn't mean they won't have, ASEAN countries or South Asia countries, whatever, the region doesn't have issues with China. They could, but they still can sit down and have a dialogue and talk about it and figure it out. And that's their issue there. Those are their issues over there. Their region, their culture. They'll find a way of solving these issues rather than through the barrel of weapons.
You mean we don't have to solve it for them?
Oh, yeah.
You mean our opinion isn't better than theirs? That they're just poor, ignorant people that don't know how to solve problems?
Yeah.
They've got thousands of years of history solving these problems.
Exactly. And that is the prevalent thinking in the West, especially in Washington. So.
Okay, two-part question.
All right.
Village Idiot.
Good to see you, Village.
Yeah, we're going to call you Village because your questions and comments are typically so good.
Good, indeed.
Part 1. How do you see the future of governance in ASEAN, considering that governments with elections, Thailand, Myanmar, and Malaysia, are experiencing outside funded and backed instability?
Okay, part 2. Oh, I gotta get to it again.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been following the outside funding for opposition parties, and it's ugly.
Well, heck, you find that even Bill Gates allocating 312 or 321 $million for media stuff. Yeah.
So part 2, okay, and likely escalate in the near term. While autocracies, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, are resistant to such instability, that a certain country is trying to sponsor around China's periphery. The country who's trying to do that will go unnamed. We can't guess who it is.
Oh, yeah.
Or can we? Yeah, okay.
That's an interesting question. That's what the heart of the geopolitical in the Pacific, the Asia Pacific region.
Yeah.
I know there's the term that some in Washington, D.C. establishments, they call it the Indo-Pacific. No. It's the Asia Pacific realm or region, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter, whomever want to call you, they can use whatever they want. But the fact is, these questions, the two parts, are really what's at the core of the geopolitical shift taking place right now. Of course, those countries, as we said at the beginning, they're going to want to be thinking in terms of, prosperity. They're going to be thinking in terms of, they don't want demonstrations, revolutions inside the country because the economic conditions. That's the norm. That's usually the natural progression when you start having domestic issues, especially once it touches people's pockets. We are witnessing this quietly now with the inflation, prices up, and slow and slow and slow makes you wonder where this is going. Could it be why the government now decides here in the US to, sort of censorship stuff? I can see the answer to that.
Yeah.
So democracy is not supposed to be so. So yeah, just to go back to your question, there will be that shift, but countries in the region, they're gonna be thinking hard about the next 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Even the US can pressure them. And yes, there is money going, like what was the case in Hong Kong, the case in Thailand. That's just the funding. There are some dark money that goes into those kind of aspects. Why? It's because we want the instability to persist. So the special interest, the defense contractors, all this can benefit from wars and conflicts, and it's about time. Really, it's about time for that stuff to stop. Hadn't we had enough? I mean, it's enough. It's enough. One life to be lived. Why go through all this? One life. We're only here one time, and that's it. So why waste it on this? Shame on those politicians.
Otro.
Oh, Otro. Yes, you're right.
Otro. Libre pensador.
Wow. You speak Spanish, Ross?
Sí, señor. Hablo español muy bien. Why China and Russia do not sign a military pact to stop NATO and U.S. aggressiveness toward them? Good question.
Yeah, and I addressed that one in my last book about Russia. And I said the cooperation between the two is going to move forward, except for signing a military treaty. They're not ready for that. The reason being, when you sign a military treaty, there's a lot involved. In other words, hypothetically, if the military treaty is signed today, and let's say NATO expanded in the Black Sea and Russia responded, a war erupts, China will have to come into support of Russia.
Vladimir Putin gave a really good explanation for this. He talked about what led to World War I quite knowledgeably. And he said ridiculous treaties came into existence where one shot could end up in a world mess because of the treaties that were set in such a way. And so he's really reluctant to do treaties with other countries that will force Russia into a military involvement when it's none of their business.
Exactly, yeah. So he's going to be thinking, it's not that they don't want to, it's just not pragmatic to do it at this time. So far how the partnership between Russia and China is moving in the right direction for what they want to achieve, because they both share a common enemy, and they want to make sure to keep the United States out of Asia altogether. That is why. But as far as signing that there's a lot involved in a military treaty that is signed between countries. Oh, thank you, William.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you think Russia and China play tag team where Russia sells arms to India and China to Pakistan? Do you think Russia can mend China-India conflict? Oh, another good. These questions are great.
Yeah, the India-Pakistani conflict won't be easy to resolve. That no country can do that. No matter what you hear, because it's deep rooted into the ethnicity of the region or that part, especially with Kashmir. Now, Kashmir is considered. Think of Kashmir sort of the in the middle between both India. Well, it is between India and Pakistan. But as far as the sovereignty and authority and India, yes, it didn't behave the right way by spreading its military and cut off the internet and all that stuff. Well, because the tensions of it, the sovereignty of the Kashmir. Pakistan's on the other hand. That's why the Kashmiri issue is not an easy one to resolve, and no country can resolve that one. So as to how Russia is approaching that, no, it's not the idea of trying to play games here. It's the Remember, always in international relations, the strategic interests are of primary objectives.
Right.
And Russia, yeah, of course you're not going to ignore India size. And India had some good relationship with Russia from a military aspect of it.
That's long term, isn't it?
That's correct. So the question that we need to all ask is, will India dump the US for Russia? Now that's something to watch for. And if they do, then you look at for the really shift into that geopolitical equation that now the US will have no say into it. I mean,
and as we know, India is fixing to be the second world largest economy.
Yeah.
Following China.
Yeah. And you know what? What saddens me about India, they have these potentials, but yet they're wasting their resources on stuff that have nothing to do with the welfare of their citizens. For a country like India, why the poverty is still at that level?
Right.
When you do have tech people, you do have brains in that country. You do
a lot of them.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at Silicon Valley here in the U.S. Who's in it?
Indians and Chinese.
Indians, yeah. So, and this is why they need to really work on domestic issues first before dealing with foreign affairs stuff. All right, I guess we have one more questions, right? Two more questions, and
this one's quick.
Okay.
Cool Eye, would you like to enlighten us on the psychology techniques people use in political propaganda?
We will be doing more videos on that.
So,
We're going to be doing a whole host of videos on it. Matter of fact, we're contemplating doing a training program that will allow you to use the tools that we do to break down the hypnotic states that speechwriters put us through.
yeah,
So you
that's
can
why.
actually become. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Russ. Sorry.
We want you to have the tools. That means you can analyze any political speech or anything anyone tells you that's actually hypnotic patterning. Come out of the trance and say, what's really happening here? And you will know.
Go to the locals because
Yeah,
I'm going to start putting
hold
on
on.
locals.
Yeah, that's what I was about to add. Besides what you're gonna be talking about,
Yeah.
Some of it is gonna be here on this platform. Others is gonna be on the locals. So you need to go and check our local website. So those kind of conversations, because those are specialized knowledge, is gonna be presented there. So, and those will go into more detail and depth that both Ross and Elizabeth is gonna be providing. You're talking about a combination of about 50 years of experience here. So, you're going to learn a lot from that. So we will be addressing those on locals, but some of it will be on this channel here. So. All right, last question, because we guys need to go to prepare for
Alex Schroeder. Shouldn't the State Department have foreseen this outcome? What does that tell us about the quality of the current senior level in this important department?
Well, first of all, Axel, thank you very much for your question yesterday I commented on it when you posted on the video that we released. So it is an interesting question. And yes, the establishment or the senior levels in Washington, those are Washington insiders. I've worked in Washington, D.C. for quite a while, so I kind of understand how this dynamics works. It is not about the quality. It is about the loyalty, So whomever becomes the president or whatever will bring his or her loyalists, shall we say, qualified or not. I remember one time he was an ambassador to one of the countries without disclosing this much, because one of the questions from the Foreign Relations Committee was a simple question: what are our strategic interests? The guy had no clue. That guy had no clue. Why? Because he happened to be just a donor. So, and this is where the problem is. So you're absolutely correct in this. Is the establishment senior level? Once again, they read a book or two and call themselves experts, and that doesn't work that way. They have no clue about the language. They have no clue about the culture. They have no clue about the ethnicities, the mix of whatever part of the world they're dealing with. Why? Because they are delegating from an armchair in Washington, D.C. making policies. How can you do that when you couldn't be on the ground to see the reality of what it is? So, well, we want to thank you so much for your very intelligent, thought-provoking questions. This is why I enjoy Fridays.
Yeah.
I drop everything for Friday. So we wanted you guys to make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're still wondering why we're only at this number. We could have been over 1 million by now. We don't know, but your persistence and please spread the word about the channel as we move forward. Remember to check out our membership at geopoliticsinconflict.com. And as I said at the beginning, now we have locals page. So make sure you go to www.geopolitics.locals.com. So you can see, because it's a platform where we can talk censorship free.
You get to find out what we really think and information we can't provide on this platform.
Exactly. Well, I can't wait to see you and Elizabeth doing the psychology aspects of what you guys are going to be dealing with. So I'm sure our viewers there will enjoy that one. For our members, we will be seeing you in about an hour and a half or so for the presentation on the new global military order and what does it mean for the future of the world. So, and as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.